Hey everyone, today we're going to discuss the 5 easiest scales to use from easiest to hardest. Now there are some really difficult and exotic scales out there, so we're not talking about those. We're talking about 5 of what I think are the easiest scales that you can get under your fingers if you put in some decent practice time. Number 1 is the basic minor pentatonic scale, and you may already know this one, but it is the most common scale that a guitar student will learn. And why is it common? Because it's easy to play, it's easy to use, and it's used in so many genres of music. It looks like this, and we'll do everything off of A today. So the A minor pentatonic looks like this. So as you can see, it's a basic scale to learn. It's not difficult, and just about any player can get that under their fingers. And why would you want to use something that's that basic? Well, it gets you going. It gets you playing sooner than later. Instead of going after something that's very difficult for you, start with a basic scale like that to get playing and get soloing. Plus, there's just a ton of material out there where you could learn phrasing, learn guitar licks, things like that. In fact, I have a ton of material available for free in PDF and Guitar Pro formats, things like phrases and licks and scales. If you just click the link in the description below, you can get that free for download. The last thing I'll say about this basic minor pentatonic is its use. If you're going to play it like this with the root on the 5th fret, that's the A minor pentatonic. You could play that over an A minor chord progression. You don't have to only play this over minor chord progressions though. If you want to use the second note as your major root, this second note happens to be C. So you could play over a C major chord progression or something in the key of C and play it right there, and you'll be in key as well. So you can practice over A minor progressions as well as C major progressions. So the second easiest scale to learn is actually another pentatonic, and it's simply another way of playing the same thing. So if you'll notice, a pentatonic is a 5-tone scale, and then it starts over at the octave right here. So instead of playing it across the strings like this, I'm going to play what's known as the diagonal pentatonic, and I'm going to treat this as my root. The A is still my root, but I'm going to go a whole step behind it and play that note there, the G. So I'm going to play these 2 notes and then go to the 5th string and play the C, the D, and the E. So 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. So altogether it's this. And I like to slide up to that note. That's known as the diagonal pentatonic, and that's the 5 notes right there. So now I can simply repeat that as an octave. So I'll go here and play on the 4th string, 5th fret, and start it over. So far we have. Now I adjust for the tuning difference, so I go up here to the 8th fret and do the same pattern. Here's the whole thing together. Now the way I would practice that is by getting just the small pattern down first. So you don't have to play in the low notes if you don't want to. Maybe practice it right here. So this would be my 5 notes. So I'll just play inside of those and get used to those before I start playing all the octaves. But it's a great scale to play from all the way here from the 3rd fret all the way up to the 12th. So it really spans the fretboard in a diagonal fashion, gets you playing out of the traditional box. Number 3 would be the major scale, and the version that I'm thinking is this one right here. I've had a number of students learn that as their first major scale and do so successfully and be able to use it. So I think that's probably a good one to start with, just to introduce the major scale and look at the whole steps and half steps. So this major scale happens to be based around the E-shaped chord. There's the E shape right there. And If you're familiar with the cage system, that's where it comes from. So a major scale is not going to be easier than a major pentatonic or a minor pentatonic because those are only 5 notes. This is 7 notes. But this is a good one to start with, and it's movable like any of these other scales. If we start it here, that's an A major. If I start it on the 7th fret, it becomes B major, and B major has 5 sharps. I didn't have to think about that though. I just moved the pattern, put the note on the root note that I want to begin. Number 4 is a 3-note per string major scale. So instead of playing a scale like we just did, where you have sometimes 3 notes and sometimes 2 notes on a string, now what we're going to do, we're going to play 3 notes per string, so it's a bit more symmetrical. It looks like this. A lot of people really prefer using 3-note per string scales, not just because of the symmetry of 3 notes per string, but because there's a lot of material out there with phrasing and patterns inside of these shapes. In fact, once again, in the description below, I've included a lot of free exercises, and 3-note per string stuff is also included in that, so grab it if you like. As with any of the other shapes, it's movable, so if this is A major, and I take it up to the 7th fret and put my root there, then it's B major. I also consider this harder than the first major scale shape that we did because of the stretching. A lot of people don't like the stretching. Once you kind of get accustomed to it though, with 3-note per string shapes or even 4-note per string shapes, the stretches aren't that bad, and especially once you start playing a little higher, it just seems to make sense. And down here, you're going to have to make a lot of use of your pinky though, so that is one thing to consider. Number 5 is a 3-note per string scale that is right behind the one we just did. So if this is A, we're going to go a half step behind it, and we'll play this version here. Now there are a lot of 3-note per string major scale shapes to choose from out there, but the reason I like this one is because it is right behind our root, and it sort of shows us how these scales interlock, so you can begin to put them together. You could practice it, matter of fact, like this. Go up the one we just learned here, and then shift into the other major scale that we learned, and come back down. So I'll do that one more time. It also helps you with some position shifting, I think. So what if I played it this way? And then shift up into the other 3-note per string major scale that we played and played the middle part here. So let me play that again. It ends up sounding like a really extended scale. I can do it backwards here. So that's the beginnings of position shifting, and I think that's a natural place to go when you're learning some scales. I don't initially want somebody to learn 7 major scale shapes because it's too confusing typically, and they don't understand how they all connect. But learning this one right after the other one that we did makes sense because they're right next to each other. A lot of overlapping is occurring, and also the one we just did here is very symmetrical. The same, the same, the same. So it's got 3 pairs of identical fretting going on, which makes it easier to memorize as well. So any of the 3 major scales that I covered today, you can put just directly over a major key if you want to practice those. So A major, the first major scale we did was this. We can do the next one that we learned, which was 3-note per string. And then the last one we did was right here. All of those will work over A major like that. And as long as you keep the key the same as the root note of the scale, you're good to go. So I think those are the 5 easiest guitar scales to learn, ranked from easiest to hardest. And even the hardest is not that difficult. It does have some more stretching going on, but it's not bad. I hope you found that helpful, and if you enjoyed today's content, please make sure to hit that like button. It really does help my channel, and subscribe to the channel if you will. If you want some real deep dives into how to use scales like this, especially the diagonal pentatonic, my friend Daniel Serif has an amazing course on his site, and he's given me a discount code. Check the description down below and you can use that and get a big discount off of his course. It truly is one of the best online. And a great free way that you can support my channel is if you're already buying killer guitars or strings or picks or whatever it might be musical, go through my Sweetwater affiliate links down below. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help support the channel in a very small way. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you all next time.